Hi. Hey, it's Chris and Kirk again for Get More Awesome. We're gonna go over getting from being in somebody's guard to taking mount. All right. So I'm in Kirk's guard. However it happens, I got into Kirk's guard. All right. So obviously we're just talking about transitioning, right? So I'm not worried about all my options from here. So transitioning. Option number one, take your elbow and dig it onto the inside of their thigh. Now, for him to resist this, he's got, the options of just however pain resistant he is on the inside of his thigh. But there's a lot of nerves that run on the inside of the thigh. And depending on the person, you can try it up higher to their knee, you can try it in closer to their crotch. It's going to be uncomfortable somewhere, but dig in with that knee and take your other hand and just use that for extra pushing. Okay, so it's not just your shoulder and back trying to pull in. With this elbow, you can get the other arm in too, to crank. Okay. Now my point here in cranking my knee into his thigh isn't just to cause pain, right? It's to allow me somehow to get past his guard. And what's going to happen, if his guard is locked, and his ankles are crossed behind my back, then I'm just pushing until I can feel that lock break. Let's go ahead and break so I don't have to cause bruises on the inside. As soon as that breaks, okay, I'm going to keep the pressure on, and I'm going to push this leg down until I flatten it against the mat or the ground, wherever I am. Okay, and then I'm just going to keep my weight on it while I just kind of glide my knee over there. Okay, I don't want to create any space. Scoot back a little bit. So again, if I'm digging and it breaks and I let go, well, he'll just put his guard closed again immediately, right? So you've got to keep the pressure on it all the way until you're over that leg. Okay? So at this point, I'm in half guard or half mount, right? And I'll just do the same thing over here, but it's going to be easier from this point, usually. He can still lock, but I've created more space. It's harder for him to close his hips. I've got weight on this one, so the same thing would happen. I would just push to break that and glide over it. I've gone from being in his guard to taking him out. All right, so that's the elbow dig. All right, let's give you another option. Go ahead, I'm in your guard. Yeah. This one's hilarious because it's too easy. There's always that option that's too easy that nobody thinks about. It doesn't always have to be super technical. You see how his legs are crossed behind me? Well, I can just reach back. I'll have to look back to see which leg is on top of the other. I'll just reach back, pull his ankles apart. And with that lock broken, I'll immediately start trying to get one leg down on the mat to follow the same protocol that I did with the elbow dig. I just didn't have to dig with my elbows with this option. I just reach behind me and pull his legs apart. All right, so reaching behind you and pulling the legs apart. All right, let's do a leg crank. All right, and remember, all of these options come down to getting them to break that lock on their guard so that you can flatten a leg and drag your leg over it. So in this option, what I'm actually going to do on this leg crank is threaten to break his femur. It's very uncomfortable, and I'll actually start bending his femur until he either breaks this lock behind or until he raises the hip in order to get a more comfortable angle. But what happens is, so if I want to crank on this leg, and the leg on the same side, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to put my foot right next to his hip. I'm going to reach around my knee, and I'm going to pull it in. You see his hip immediately came up. Okay? Now if his hip doesn't come up, go ahead and flatten it. Then what's happening is, if his hip is locked in, and I crank, I'm keeping his hip where it is, his knee is stabilized right where it is, and I'm putting pressure right in the middle of his femur to crank it in, because his hip and his knee can't go anywhere, right? Unless he decides to raise that hip. Okay, so I'm doing this. If he knows to raise his hip, or if it happens instinctually, I can just push that hip down. And it'll break. And he resisted. He was resisting that. And as soon as the break happens, again, you get an arm in here, you flatten that leg to the mat, you drag your knee over it to start taking mount. Always comes down to that. All right, so we've got elbow dig, we've got reach behind and pull apart, and we've got that leg crank, okay? Last option, another good one. It's only going to be possible for you if you've got strong legs, but it's a great option. So go ahead. I'm in this guy's guard. I'm just going to stand up, all right? So I'm going to stand up. And as soon as I've stood up, I'll create a lot of space. I'll create a lot of space in here. And it's harder for him to hold on. And it's really easy to just start to push down on their legs, okay? Now if they're really tenacious and they're able to maintain that hard grip around your waist with that guard, and you stand up and they aren't still on the ground but they're actually just sitting up with you, then you slam them back down on the mat. That'll knock the wind out of them and take the fight right out of them pretty good. Let's not slam each other. That's unnecessary. All right, we'll see you in the next one.